AM 1600 KIVA and 93.7 FM. This is Dr. William Summers, Life Imagined, here on the Rock of Talk. Dr. Summers, good morning, sir. How are you?
A little perturbed, but getting over it. This is, we just slid out of January into February. And so the world goes on. Valentine's Day is coming up.
Hearts are breaking all over the world tonight on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're in the Super Bowl pause and the war between the Republicans and Mr. Trump and the is it fair to call it the party of infanticide? The infanticide party?
I think that's absolutely fair. They have earned that this week with what's happened in Virginia with Mario Cuomo, the governor of New York, and what he has done. I got to tell you, it is really remarkable just how far they're willing to go. Mother could be dilating 40th week, and would the bill allow for it? And the answer is yes in Virginia. Now, that, of course, didn't get passed. And then Northam, who is the governor of Virginia, he basically was, I guess trying to talk his way through it or reason his way through it. And then he mentioned fetus. I don't know about you, but there's no 40-week-old fetus in a womb, right?
I think their motto is "No fetus can beat us." Sorry about that.
Wow, that's strong. Yeah, that's strong. Langston's here in studio with us. We'll pipe him in as well. No doubt. We're going to have Generation Onward this evening. He can talk more about that. Go ahead, Langston. You wanted to say something? He has to get something off.
No, I was just reacting to Dr. Summers' comedy there.
No fetus can beat us. That's the way they look at it. I mean, what does it take to get born in this country? I mean, do they consider that fetuses are
an act of Congress? Apparently,
but I mean, it's like they consider a fetus an illegal alien.
Worse.
Maybe they build the wall.
Illegal aliens get treated better.
They build the wall. Just outside of the female delivery system.
Let's freeze it here. You, of course, are familiar with the University of New Mexico healthcare system. We are the late-term abortion capital of this country. Have we earned that?
We've earned it. It looks like we're getting some competition from New York, I must say. And if the governor would have it, of all things, Virginia. Virginia was a wonderful, wonderful place before they managed to flip it blue, and now it's just gone nutty.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy. Where should we start today? Let's not get into politics too far. We've got a medical show that we have to do.
Yes,
recently, as the beginning of the year, people were talking about first of the year, what do they call them? New Year's resolutions.
Yes.
And you talked about something that is apparently, I think you were sort of ahead of the curve. You've been talking about this. But fasting seems to be all the rage. People are talking a lot about it, and a lot of people are doing it. This seems to be one of the most effective ways to lose weight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the weight control theme is always the January issue, but let's slide it a little bit into February here. And as we've talked about on the show this last month, fasting is indeed the most effective way to lose weight. Very unsightly, very difficult to a lot of people. There are 4 forms that we talked about. First is just reduce your calories to 15 to 40% of what you used to eat. That'll do it. But how many people are going to resist that hot fudge sundae after the big burger and the extra fries?
Almost no one.
So that one's kind of tough because you got to kind of have your bit on it the whole time and biting your tongue. But time restriction is the one that I think you and I felt was the most effective, and that is you limit your eating to a 4 to 8 hour window.
I mean, why does your dog stay in shape but sleeps all day?
Yeah, that's a good point, because you feed it once a day or twice a day, and you usually feed it when the sun is still out. And so the trick to the time restriction, eat in a 4 hour period, say from, let's say, 10 o'clock in the morning until, let's say, 6 o'clock at night. You stop eating at 6. All right, if you just do that, you lose weight. Eat the same amount, eat as much as you want, but somehow or another, that time restriction causes weight loss. And actually, when they do the calorie count, you're eating less in a 24 hour period. But along those lines, I wanted to bring out a very famous cookbook which I'm sure is in your collection, right?
I might own one or two cookbooks. Let's
Yes.
see if it's the one.
It's the American Cookbook by Jane Cunningham. She wrote it in 1870.
I don't have that one.
Yeah, it's
That one still is that out of print?
maybe.
Is there an ISBN number on it?
It's interesting because she denounced the alarming new trend in American mealtime habits.
In 1870.
In 1870, the people were beginning to make dinner their major meal.
Oh, wow.
See, we used to call that supper.
Talk about, we do call it supper.
And,
at least good families call it supper.
Yeah, and the main course used to be the noon course. You came in, you would work like crazy in the fields. You'd come in at lunch. The family would all gather together, and you would have your midday meal.
Yeah.
And that was when you took most of your calories.
She was ahead of the curve back in 1870.
1870. And she pointed out the American tradition of eating from the colonial era to 1870 was to have the primary meal in the midday, fueling themselves for the rest of the workday. And let me quote here, but with more men spending their days outside the home as wage laborers, dinner has become a nighttime affair. And Cunningham said that she hated that sign and that 6 o'clock dinners, quote, destroy health. Do you believe that? She wrote this in 1870.
Can I say that she's right?
Yes, she is right. You know, here we are, we're coming 150 years later, and she says late day meals were harder to digest, and perhaps worse, it gave women the daytime for idle gossip and visiting to shop and promenade.
Oh, look at that.
So, I mean,
this is like Thorstein Veblen's, a theory of the leisure class.
Mm-hmm.
Right? High tea at 11, snack at 2, siesta, and then big dinner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I guess we were trying to keep up with the Joneses. The big dinners, the feasts, of course, were evening time. So maybe that's sort of where that derived from. And we thought, because based upon our amount of wealth, obviously this was a time when people were starting to get land, there was immigrants coming in, there was a move westward, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, New Mexico wasn't even a state at the time. In fact, it looked like it was 42 years since it was a state of 1870. So you're starting to look at these types of things, Dr. Summers. It's very curious and very interesting to me that these people, these new landowners, were thinking about, well, we're going to go ahead and make it just like the Louis XIV. We're going to make our feasts in the evening.
Yep. And again,
what do you think about that assessment? You think pretty close?
I think you're pretty close. I think what we were doing is we were playing keep up with the Joneses.
Mm-hmm.
We moved to an industrial state where you weren't with the family at lunchtime. And so what you did was
that's right. You went to work.
You went to work.
You went to work.
Yeah. And so how do we deal with that in today's world? Because we still go to work. How do we make our lunch the major meal?
So the 50s turned into a time where, honey, I'm home. I got to have the slippers and the pipe and the big meal and the TV. And
it just led.
Not bad for our health.
That's right. And this lady, Jane Cunningham, called it in 1870.
Wow.
You know, it's interesting. They brought her story up to mock her in a book called The Pressure Cooker, Why Home Cooking Won't Solve Our Problems and What We Can Do About It. It was published by Oxford University Press, and it's what they did was this was a couple of ad libs, or just libs, who went out and interviewed 150 mothers from Atlanta to Seattle, and they determined that women had the intense desire to give their families the best dinners possible, and they were failing, and we were, and all of the cookbooks were wrong because it wasn't paying attention to the reality. Reality is, where are we? Well, during the day, we're not at home, and so we've got to have menus that fit that sort of thing. And here's the take-home of this crazy lib book that the Oxford University Press put out, and it's called The Pressure Cooker, is the name of the book. Why Home Cooking Won't Solve Our Problems and What We Can Do About It. And here's what we can do about it. We can organize, and we can go to big government and say, it is our right to have food, and we need to reduce property and recognize food as a human right. I think that's in the Bill of Rights, number 27,
yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. And that families, you just give them all the food free, and they will figure out how to dine themselves. And that's where that book goes. But I thought that little story in their opening thing about the cookbook from 1870, the lady was right. You know, you got to eat in the midday if you want to kind of stay. Anyway, so back to the fasting thing. You can either reduce calories 15-40% of normal, or you can time restrict, which frankly is what we think. You can do alternate day fasting.
What we think is the best.
I think it's doable. Alternate day fasting, it means you get your verve up every other day. I mean, my God, how do you do that? And then there's combination where what you do is for 5 days out of the month, you eat 30% of your usual caloric intake, and then you eat normal for 2 days, and you do that once a month, 4 months a year. So all of those things will give you longevity, reduce stroke and heart attack, yada, yada. So fasting is one thing we've covered. We've also touched on, as an important thing, quantity versus quality. A lot of the debate over diets and food in the past 20 to 30 years is, well, you just got to eat the right stuff. You know, if you eat all protein, all fat, no carbs, by golly, you can do it. You can get your weight down, and it's no problem. On the other hand, the argument 30 years ago was if you eat all carbs, all Kellogg's Corn Flakes, then you lose weight with 100% carbs. And that sort of caught our attention. But what I've found in my study of all of this is you could be on the all watermelon diet, the all carrot juice diet, or whatever, but quantity is equally important as quality. So you could eat junk food, but if you ate a proportionate smaller amount of it, you're going to lose weight. Anyway, so quality
the Chips
and quantity.
Ahoy 100-calorie snack bag diet.
Yep.
You could probably do that.
That's one of those, we're going to reduce the dose and we're going to charge you extra bucks for it. And to some extent, they're right. Quantity and quality. Now, the exceptions to the quantity-quality thing are fiber. If you eat nothing but cauliflower, you can eat cauliflower all day long, all you want, all the time. You will lose weight. Why? Because that is something that humans can't digest and bacteria can't digest. As a matter of fact, the high fiber diets really, the fiber is used by the bacteria as like rafts to float down the GI system onto the outside world. And in the trip, they will eat some of your calories that you would ordinarily eat, and they will remetabolize things in a better form for you. So, you know, if you add fiber, the so-called famous chicken and broccoli diet, it's good for you. If you add apples with high fiber in it, it's good for you. So that's something that you go ahead and do. Yogurt is another thing where, you know, you look at the side of the yogurt thing and it says, oh, it's 120 calories. But, you know, half of those calories are the bacteria. And the bacteria are busy helping you eat the food. So, you know, those are the exceptions. Other than that, quantity, quality, both of them, you have to go higher quality. Well, that's cool, but you have to go lower quantity no matter what you do. Now, the next question is, how do you get fat out of the body?
This makes so much sense, by the way. I don't know. I like to, like,
rub
up and down. I like to rub on my washboard abs that were there that I can. I know if I just
if you rub
do that,
enough.
If I do that, or you know what? How about one of those belts that you strap around, and then it shakes?
Or it
I think
melts
that's
it off.
how you do it. I think
they have the infrared ones that melt it off.
Or the
freezers.
Yeah.
They have the freezies it off.
Yeah, melt the fat away.
Yeah.
That's how you get it out.
Yeah. So where does it go to? How does it get out of the body?
I don't know. When it melts away, I don't know. Where does it go?
That's, go ask the next 10 people you see, where does the fat go that's on your tummy if you lose it?
In the middle of the night, it goes into the bed.
Uh-huh. It just goes into the ethers or something. Well, I used to, before I really, really thought it through and came across a tape by a Australian physicist by the name of Reuben Meerman. I used
Mr.
to think,
Meerman.
Yes, Professor Meerman.
Professor Meerman.
Yeah.
Dr. Meerman.
Yeah. I used to think that you ended up breaking it down into, some sort of form of carbohydrate and You then also broke it down into water, and that it came out in the kidneys. So when I was trying to motivate someone to lose weight, I would
Get
say,
on
look,
fat.
you know, you look at that McDonald's cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Now you visualize having to have it pass in your urine. And that will be a motivating factor to just have one of those burgers and not two.
It'd be tough to get those buns through there.
Yeah, to get those buns out in the passage.
Through the urethra.
Yeah, the urethra. It is almost like a stone in itself. But anyway.
Like Langston is right now.
Yeah.
He's not even noticing the conversation.
But it turns out I'm wrong. Where it goes is, are you ready?
I am. Really? I breathe it out?
You breathe it out.
Breathe in the health. Breathe out the fat.
Well, you eat the food, and the food gets converted, absorbed, metabolized by the liver, etc., sent to fat cells and stored as fat. And that fat almost invariably is C55H104O6.
Damn it, I was off by just a couple of numbers.
And what you do is you combine it with 78 oxygens, 78 O2s. Now, where does the O2 come from? It's from breathing in, right? You get your oxygen
I could
by
breathe
breathing.
my way out of this.
Yeah.
Are you telling me this is the new diet? Time-restricted feeding and breathing
And
in.
hyperventilating. No, the hyperventilating.
Langston, are you listening?
Yes.
All right,
Anyway, so no, the
This is
chemical
serious.
formula.
You
The
should
chemical
listen.
formula. I'll read it out
Only
loud
eat
here.
between 10 and 4 and
Yeah.
do your breathing exercises
I was just
5
thinking
times
about.
a day.
I was thinking about that. You know, my fiance, she wants to work from home. You know, you and I, of course, talked about that and getting her involved with my business. But I figure, you know, when we have kids, you know, when they're young enough, I'm wondering what the feasibility would be of, you know, having a big meal at noontime. Can we if she's
If
working
you
from
can
home, I
pull
can
that
be
off,
home and
that's ideal.
get the kids out of school for an hour during their lunch period and eat a big
You have
meal during the
kids?
lunch. I'm just saying, when we do have children,
Oh, okay.
you know, pull them out at when their lunchtime is, and then
And then
something
you
small
correct all
around
of the
dinner.
mistakes that the government teacher put into their head during
man.
the morning.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
And there you go. But anyway, so if you follow this formula of C55H104O6, combine it with 78 molecules of oxygen that you breathe in, you get 55 molecules of carbon dioxide, which you breathe out, plus 52 water molecules plus energy. Now remember,
I just feel thinner.
yeah, I mean, anyway, so these molecules, these atoms, they cannot be destroyed. You can add energy, and indeed, energy is burned and comes off in the form of heat.
I got the name of this diet, the Atom Smasher diet.
There you
What
go.
do you think?
Anyway, so when you walk through the actual math, and Meerman's, he did a TED Talk.
Of course he did.
Yeah, no. Look up Reuben Meerman and TED Talks, and it is the most fascinating thing. He puts it up on the blackboard, and it turns out that 84% of the fat that you lose is exhaled in the breath as an invisible gas, carbon dioxide.
This is the most remarkable show you've ever done, by the way. I've never been more fascinated at the outset of any of your shows than I have today. It's time-restricted dieting. I don't even have to work out. I just have to breathe and eat during a specific time of day and just watch melt away the fat.
Yeah, and now 16% of, in all fairness, 16% is water that the body has to get rid of, mostly probably through urine, but probably sweat. And there is some moisture when you breathe out as well. So if you were to lose 10 kilos, which is 22 pounds,
Wow.
what's going to happen is 8.4 kilos. In other words, 18 pounds you breathe off as carbon dioxide.
This is the most.
And
Are you listening to this, Langston? Are you hearing this?
3.5 pounds comes off as water. And that's how you metabolize fat.
Eat and move.
Yep. Well, you say eat less, move more.
Yeah.
Now, you asked the great standard question, well, why don't we just hyperventilate ourselves to thinness?
Yeah.
And the answer is because when you hyperventilate, you shift what's called the acid-base palate. You become alkalotic, and if you keep breathing that way, you die because you've shifted the pH too much.
So now I'm just basically killing people.
The other big question is, if I breathe myself to health and lose weight, am I going to contribute to global warming? You know,
The
you
cows,
remember
the methane,
cows,
yeah,
the methane,
cows,
and all
yeah.
that
It's
stuff.
like they're killing us.
Yeah, I
out
don't.
there.
You know, if
with
you
the
got to
meats.
ask that question, you don't understand global warming at all. So just stop with that.
There's
stuff.
a methane cloud over Farmington because of all the cows and the oil. Right?
Well, how about when you come out of El Paso on the way to Las Cruces?
Oh my God, that's foul.
That is.
Yeah, you're headed towards.
No, it's cows.
You're
It's
headed
not foul.
You're headed towards.
Fowl would be duck and geese, but this is
You will. I was thinking of we headed to like Pampa, Texas, and Amarillo, and the slaughterhouses between the state line and Amarillo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah,
my
those are
gosh.
pretty incredible.
You can't even get through there.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to shut the air conditioners off. You got to shut everything down. Like, how the
put
hell
a
do
nose
people,
plug on.
Yeah, how the hell do people get through that area for 40 miles?
Well, I mean, what happens is the brain is very interesting. That's actually first cranial nerve function, and what happens is it goes, oh, it's that smell, and ignores it. So after you've been in that milieu a while, you can't smell it anymore because the brain just, we're tired of smelling that, so it just shuts it down. You can't even smell it anymore.
Well, we don't want your brain to shut down. That's why we want you to have Memory Revitalizer and Life Imagined. You can pick it up at local stores, including Moses Country Store, Durand Central Pharmacy, Sam's Regent Pharmacy, Best Buy Pharmacy, Manal Pharmacy. Where's that at?
Oh, it's on Manal.
Evergreen Herbal Market, Village Apothecary in Cedar Crest, or online at memoryrevitalizer.com. That's memoryrevitalizer.com, or you can shop worldwide on Amazon.com and shop local. Jeff Bezos is from here. Help him out. He's going through a divorce. Also at 800-606-0192. That's 800-606-0192 is part of our promotion. If you order at 800-606-0192, we'll give you a 2-for-1. You can go 60 days. So let's talk about the plegometer.
Well, let me go back. I want to summarize. What I'm saying is eat less. Okay.
Yes.
And get your timing of eating.
Mm-hmm.
Eat more fiber. But the move more is the thing I want to throw a spotlight on. I always made fun of people going to the gym in January. Oh, well, if you walk up a 5-story building, you've burnt 100 calories, which is not even a piece of dry toast without the butter. And so you kind of make fun of that. But the point is that turns out moving more is how you breathe more deeply. And by breathing more deeply, you're going to get rid of that carbon dioxide. So you got to move more, eat less, and keep breathing. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so the plegometer. Yes, the plegometer is upon us. It is upon us. And it is in the form this time as measles.
Measles.
Yes, the disease which actually I had. No, I didn't have
You
measles.
had measles?
No, I didn't have measles. I had chicken pox.
Oh,
yeah.
That's totally different. Yeah, measles and chicken pox, not the same. You're a doctor. You should know these things.
Yes. And the chicken pox I had was pretty rough because I hallucinated with that, man. I saw witches on the ceiling. It was a rough go. I think it was like 104 temp or something.
I had chicken pox when I was 8 years old. And
that's a bad time to have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got through it for a week. Basically stayed in my room and watched PBS.
That's a shame. So that distorted your mind forever.
And now see what you get the remnants of that here on the radio. Let's talk about measles.
All right, measles. 23 confirmed cases this month. Last month, actually, January. And of the 23 they confirmed in Clark County, which is Portland, Oregon, that 20 out of
County,
the 23. I didn't realize that. Anyway, so they confirmed that 20 out of the 23 were not vaccinated for measles. Mm-hmm. Okay? And 7% of Clark County in general is exempt from compulsory vaccinations at the kindergarten level for religious reasons. So religion, well, okay, that takes me back to Proverbs 11:29, which says, "He who troubles his own house will inherit the wind, and the fool will be the servant to the wise of heart." Well, New York is having the same problem. Okay, it's the most severe outbreak of measles in decades, with 182 confirmed cases this last year of measles. New York Times, of course, blames the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community. In truth, the vaccination record of the illegal immigrants is really where the suspicion is as to their 182 cases. Worldwide, measles is an airborne, highly contagious, leading killer in the world of children. Now, that's until smallpox comes back. Smallpox, incidentally, was declared totally eradicated in 1980. Did you realize that?
No.
No such thing as smallpox anymore? I'll bet there's a pocket of it somewhere in Tibet waiting to be sprung upon us once we stop, vaccinating for smallpox. Last year, there were 349 confirmed measles cases in 26 states that reported it. So we're having a resurgence of measles here in the United States, also in Europe, and it's been reported in both Berlin and Warsaw, in other words, Poland and Germany. And, of course, there they blame the Christians. The Dutch Bible Belt has been blamed.
What?
Yes, in the Netherlands, there are a bunch of Dutchmen who don't like to vaccinate their kids, and so they're the perps in Holland. And, of course, the Muslims are probably the perps in Berlin and Warsaw. So the problem is that when vaccination coverage falls below 85%, you get an outbreak, and then there's a huge problem. And so what we're doing is, by not accepting vaccination of measles, and you know me, I'm not big into the influenza.
When do they vaccinate? When do they vaccinate?
DPT. So that's one of the first ones you get.
That's the diptet.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the first ones you get.
Is that the mark on my left arm?
No, that's your smallpox. You had a smallpox vaccination. Kids these days don't get that, apparently.
Wow.
Anyway, because they declared smallpox as non-existent. Remember, smallpox was blamed for wiping out the Native Americans. When the white folks arrived, they killed off all of the Indians with smallpox.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so measles symptoms, let's run through it. After you're exposed to it, highly contagious, spreads by air. 6 to 19 days later, you come down with a runny nose, a sore throat, a cough. Your eyes hurt. You have photophobia, light hurts, fever,
What's that
rash.
called? Photophobia? Is
Photophobia.
that fear of people taking selfies?
No, well, it could be. It's so long as the selfie flashes. But no, it's, light bothers you. And there is a rash that starts in your forehead and the hairline, and it just sort of dwindles down over your face, turns brown, and eventually fades. And that's measles. So the take-home message here is from Proverbs 11:29. He who troubles his own house by not taking your vaccination will inherit the wind, and the fool will be the servant to the wise of heart. So that's it. And if you're wise and not a fool, you should be taking your memory revitalizer or your Life Imagine.
Where is the worst outbreaks right now of measles?
Probably in Europe, in Warsaw, Germany, etc. In this country, we hammered down on it, but I'll tell you, if we keep bringing busloads and busloads,
literally,
people from Central America who are unvaccinated, we're going to have a huge problem here.
Yeah. Well, let's. By the way, you're listening to Life Imagine with Dr. William Summers here in Dekiva on AM 1600 KIVA and 93.7 FM. Let's talk about Life Imagined itself. What element should we talk about today?
Well, it's the feature of the show we're going to carry on probably through the year. We had 34 components in Life Imagined, and all of them are fascinating in their own way. And as a matter of fact, it took me over 5 years to do the research on this back in the 90s and put this formulation together. And one of the components is alpha lipoic acid, affectionately known as ALA. Now, it's a sulfur-containing fatty acid naturally found in your body. You actually do make some of it. It's unique among other antioxidants because although it's a fatty acid, it is both water-soluble and fat-soluble. So you get small amounts of lipoic acid in your diet if you eat a lot of spinach, collard greens, broccoli, back to the broccoli and health, beef, and organic meats. But lipoic acid tends to decline in your body as you age. So you need to supplement it with your own alpha lipoic acid. And it's right there in Life Imagined, and it's right there in your Memory Revitalizer. So you can use that to achieve the body levels you need to run your body optimally. And the ALA has a unique ability to work in all cell environments. because it can enter all elements of the cell, and it neutralizes free radicals from the DNA component all the way over to the mitochondria. Damaging free radicals can result in oxidation of cells, and it's related to all kinds of diseases of aging, including Alzheimer's disease. So because the lipoic acid can get through the blood-brain barrier, it's particularly good for protecting neurons. It is also particularly good for production of some of the neurotransmitters. It actually can be used directly to make acetylcholine. That's the neurotransmitter of memory. It improves glucose or sugar uptake by the brain. And so therefore has been showing some promise in terms of preventing Alzheimer's in the traditional literature. Well, it's right in your memory revitalizer. It's right in your Life Imagine. It also can be used for brain energy. And here's another cute thing. You remember I keep talking about synergy in the formulation. When you get vitamin C depleted, guess what? The alpha-lipoic acid will regenerate the vitamin C. It also regenerates vitamin E when it's spent, and glutathione.
Wow.
And the
so
other
no need for those supplements then.
Yeah, and so your vitamin C, incidentally, regenerates the number one antioxidant component in the body, which is uric acid. So what happens then is the ALA reconstitutes the vitamin C, which then reconstitutes the uric acid, which, the fight goes on, and it's the never-ending fight between the antioxidants of the body and the free radicals produced to make the body function. A final aspect of the alpha-lipoic acid is it reduces inflammation. Now, inflammation is really part of the human condition. It's part of living. And so ALA is an essential component among the 34 components of Memory Revitalizer and Life Imagine. And, of course, Life Imagine is the formulation for the under 60 group. We're recommending you take 4 of the capsules a day to sort of fend off the damages of aging. After you hit 60, we're suggesting the Memory Revitalizer, 6 capsules a day. And it's basically the cost of a latte a day. That's almost become a cliche.
It has.
Everything costs a lot.
Right?
Give a latte a day, and we save the children of South America.
The funny thing is, I don't buy lattes. I use the Keurig for my coffee addiction.
Well, you don't do like I used to do through school, which was the granulated coffee. You boil the water and you toss in a teaspoon of the fake coffee.
Oh, yeah, the instant coffee.
Yeah.
Well, now cannabis. Now you've talked about cannabis before. You said that this craze is essentially going to phase out. Let me ask you: do you still think that now? I mean, has anything kind of
it'll take it 10 years to phase out. I mean, the thing is, when you play cops and robbers, you make the thing stick around longer. In the mid-1890s, there was a big craze in Europe for cocaine. Sigmund Freud was addicted, for example. And at first, he praised it as the chemical way to treat depression. Then he realized he was addicted. And
there's this addictive element after the fact.
It wasn't so easy to get off of it. And by the time he realized that, it was around 1900. And so that the run of cocaine through Europe among the intellectuals was in the 1890s, and it was done by 1900, 5 years. And that was in an open free market. You just went down, you bought your cocaine. You didn't have to smuggle it past the border guards and kill people and be killed and have gangs and all that sort of stuff. It just happened. So if you gave free flow to cannabis, every time that's been done, it never catches on. It was freely available to societies as much as 10,000 years ago. They found it in ceremonial pots, and it's used in the old societies, used ceremonially, but used widespread as something like alcohol,
or
where
tobacco.
everybody, or tobacco. That hasn't happened in the history of man, and we've had it available 10,000 years.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, even the cocaine one makes sense. I mean, you're talking about a portion of society where people are going to farms, they're working in mines, they're dealing with hard labor most of the time. I mean, you can't afford to be zoned out on marijuana and be expected to work and feed your family. It's not going to happen. But I'm wondering, though, today, a little bit different, government assistance, a lot less physical labor jobs. Will we still see that impact?
Well, yeah, because the main thing that the cannabis does, besides put Swiss cheese in your head, just turn your brain into Swiss cheese, is that it is the cause of amotivational syndrome. I keep saying that Bill Gates was caught here in Albuquerque using marijuana. And there's that famous photo of him, the mugshot from the police. And I say if he continued to use the marijuana, he would probably have made it to be the head of a Sonic burger instead of the head of Microsoft.
Right.
So people who use marijuana on a daily basis, et cetera, they have amotivational syndrome. The only thing they care about is the basic comfort of food and water and shelter, and after that, where they're going to get their next marijuana. And it pretty much knocks them out of society. In the caveman days, that wouldn't work because you get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. It would be, the Darwin Award type of thing. Anyway, cannabis. CBD is teased out of it, and they say, oh, my goodness, this is really different. It's a trendy oil. It's sold for pain, nausea, sleeplessness, and more, ingrown toenails, color your hair green, whatever. And the CBD oil is a derivative of the marijuana plants. It is what is called a cannabinoid. It's now sold in shops and cafes, and it is an oil that really is not psychoactive. And
I've been wondering what even is the purpose of CBD and why that trend has been catching on.
Well, it supposedly is medicinal, and they give it all kinds of glorious cures, multiple sclerosis, for example. But there really is only one proven use for the CBD, and the FDA has actually approved a CBD drug in June of 2018. And it's called Epidiolex. Epidiolex is an anti-seizure medicine.
Okay.
And it specifically goes after what is thought to be a rare form of seizure, complex partial seizures. Temporal lobe epilepsy was the old name for it. But in actual fact, it probably is, it does some good there, probably helps a little bit. I don't think that's going to be a blockbuster $1 billion a year sales, but the oral solution of CBD is also sold for that purpose, and it gets pretty expensive after a while. And there is no evidence that any of the other things they claim, from improving halitosis to making your belly button smaller, who knows? None of that has really, met any kind of level of approval by the scientific community. There is some anti-inflammatory effect, and that may actually be part of why the seizure activity is reduced. But, in terms of other things, pain, nausea, vomiting, curing cancer, causing warts to go away, curing MS, all of that stuff, there just isn't any evidence. So I guess the take-home point is there's zealots pushing the marijuana issue like there's zealots pushing, we're back to full-term abortions.
Right, yeah.
The zealots, you can't believe zealots. When there isn't logic behind what they're doing, stop listening to them. That's the only thing to do. So that's the take-home there. Now, I am a zealot for Memory Revitalizer and Life
Naturally,
Imagine.
and where can we find this Memory Revitalizer?
Yeah, you should listen to me, because I'm right. And
so where
wrong.
can we find it, Dr. Summers?
Well, you can get it at the Moses Country Store, Duran Central Pharmacy, Sam's Regent Pharmacy, Best Buy Pharmacy on they're on Wyoming. Manal Pharmacy's on Manal. Evergreen Herbal Market, which I believe is over in... I want to say Rancho Cucamonga, but it's Rio Rancho. And the Village Apothecary in Cedar Crest. You can also order it on Amazon or just go to www.memoryrevitalizer.com or lifeimagine.com, either one, two different websites. You could order it directly, 800-606-0192. And if you order it that way, the Life Imagined, it's a 2-for-1 for the full month of February. So if you order one bottle, you get two, but you got to say you heard about it on the show here. So that's the story there.
And the last 5 minutes of the program here, I want you to kind of go over e-cigarettes for us. You know, are they bad? Is it a good trend to wean off tobacco? You know, what say the illustrious Dr. Summers on this one?
Well, all right. Which side of the argument are the zealots on? They're on, oh, my God, they're just as bad as cigarettes, cigars, and chewing tobacco. Aren't they? Aren't the bureaucrats? You know, oh, my God.
Popcorn lung, and children are taking hold of it and all this stuff.
Yeah, and they'll go into, well, it's just as evil as cigarettes. Let's think about that a little bit. And they'll do it with high emotion. Is it really? If you want to lose weight, there's only one chemical we know of that will consistently cause weight loss. That's called nicotine.
That's right. In fact, I've not had a single primary care physician that have told me that nicotine is bad. In fact, they've all said it's okay to use nicotine. It just depends on how you're going to use the nicotine or where you get the nicotine from.
Uh-huh. The other thing is that there is pretty decent evidence if you want to avoid Alzheimer's by an extra year or 5 or 10, nicotine is your chemical. Isn't that weird?
Wow. Why does that? Why is it contributing to that sort of weight loss or help with Alzheimer's?
Well, I will guess because it's a natural vasodilator, so you're going to get better circulation in the brain. And so and again, I go back to that famous experiment done by this brave neurosurgeon in Reno, Nevada that I came across a good 20 years ago. A good buddy of his was the vice president of a company, and he was coming down with Alzheimer's, and his friend said, hey, come on by the hospital, we'll do a little procedure, we'll make that Alzheimer's go away. And so here's what he did, was he cut open his belly, found some mesentery in there, stripped away the gut, took the mesentery, threaded it under the skin, up through the chest, under the skin, up through the neck, to the brain, to the skull, put a little burr hole in the skull, and dropped the mesentery, which is highly vascular. Now, the mesentery is connected down to the stomach, and it's under the skin all the way up, and he just dropped it in a little burr hole that he put onto the surface of the brain. And it turned out, and the guy's Alzheimer's went away. And he had put it on, I think, the left side of the brain, because he was a guy, you know, left brain and all that stuff. And so the guy died in an airplane accident in Reno. And they got him in very quickly, did an autopsy of the brain, and you know what it showed? It showed no plaques, no tangles, the signs of Alzheimer's. They were gone from the left side of the brain. Right side of the brain still had infestations of Alzheimer's. So if you increase the circulation to the brain, you decrease the signs of Alzheimer's by clearing the amyloid and the tau protein.
Well, let me ask you. So there's been some
cigarettes
concern.
may do that. I mean, not cigarettes, but the nicotine.
There's concern from the World Health Organization about some of the chemicals inside of e-cigarettes. They're concerned it might be cancer-causing chemicals. I mean, is that true? Is there a legitimate concern for this?
Which chemical? See, they use the chemicals. Which one? If that's the case and you have the evidence, take that one out. It's not that big a deal. You know, I think that, again, when you look at an argument, where is the zealot? Okay? And the side that the zealot is on will, generally speaking, turn out to be wrong. And the side where the person is calmly saying, well, the facts are these, is the side that'll turn out to probably be right over time. Always, especially when it comes down to claims of science, et cetera, anybody who says that there's 100% consensus within science, I'm going to tell you they're full of baloney. There's no such thing. You know, there's always someone willing to argue whether gravity is real or not. There is the Flat Earth Society. I mean, the Flat Earth Society is real.
And they're aggressive people, by the way. You know, they will come after you.
And I love things like, when we did this on the show some time ago, but the Journal of Irreproducible Results did an article about the evils of water addiction. And that, whenever there's an airplane accident or an auto accident, frequently the water addiction is involved in the form of snow or sleet or rain.
Okay, well, see, now that's a little different. In that case, you're injured.
Yeah, well,
can
the
you do?
zealots are on the side of the argument the water is addicting. I mean, their whole case rests on the fact that if you don't have any water for 3 weeks, you're dead. And so, therefore, you died of withdrawal. Okay, folks, be safe out there, and thank you for listening.
Another great edition of Life
We
Imagine
are
with
having
Dr.
fun.
Summers. This was a very fun show. Thank you, Dr. Summers, for being in here in the Kiva. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Folks, don't change that dial because we have more news and commentary for you guys up next. 93.7 FM, 600 AM KIVA, Fox News Radio, worldwide at abq.fm.
Except you need it.